Well, I do see that we are live, which is very exciting. So,
Yay.
welcome everybody to our math webinar that we are getting to do today. We're very excited to be here. My name is Caitlin Morris, and I'm one of the masterbooks coaches that I just get the blessed joy of interacting in our Facebook group. And you see me also in the masterbooks app. And here with me today is Angela Odell, who is a masterbooks author of many things. But today we get to focus on math lessons for a living education. So welcome. We're very glad that you're with us.
I am happy to be here and talking about math.
Everyone's favorite subject, right?
Yeah.
So, for those of us tuning in today live, if you see me looking off to the side, I will be wanting to keep an eye on your questions as they come in and go back and forth between questions and interacting. So, if you see me looking off to the side, I promise I am listening and here. I just want to keep up with what you guys have going on. And so far, I see a lot of people joining in and saying hello. And that's really exciting to see so many people here today. All right. So, you guys, if you have any math questions, feel free to put those in the chat and we will get started. So, one of the first questions that we have today is kind of about place value village and how it's introduced in math lessons level 1. Do you think you could describe what place value village is? Maybe how can parents know that their child is ready to learn about place value?
Well, place value is one of those things that it's good to introduce very young. And the place value village is just a really concrete way for kids to be able to actually handle objects so that they can kind of understand that concept through that hands-on way. Um, the place value village is an aspect of the math lessons curriculum that the kids are going to have throughout the whole series. They keep building on it through the whole series. So that is it's a manipulative that's going to grow with them and with the concepts that they're learning. Um, it's also place value is one of those things that it's really important that they have that hands-on, that less abstract way of trying to connect with that, because kids are at that age. Concepts need to be very, very concrete for them to really start connecting with it. So that's where that comes in.
Very, very cool. So parents know that their child is ready for place value and place value village when they're getting ready to do double digit addition and subtraction, would you say?
Yes, every child is different, and I really just encourage the parents to trust their own instinct about where their child is in development. Some kids are ready to start playing around with that concept really, really early on, and that's why I put it in the math one in a very, very simplistic at a very simplistic level. So it's one of those concepts that I encourage parents to introduce and just watch it. I kind of compare it to potty training. When
Mm,
your child is ready, they're ready.
right.
Otherwise, you're just training yourself to put them on the potty when you think that they're ready. So it's really not something that's going to hold them back if they don't understand it right away. It's not something that's going to put them way, way forward if they do understand it right away, because I can guarantee you they may understand it at that really early level, but there is going to be a time where they get stumped with it, and that's okay too. So it's just a concept that needs to be introduced when the child is ready, at the speed that they are ready for. So just be aware and don't worry if they don't get it right away, and don't be all excited if they do get it all right away, because it's not a permanent thing either way.
Yeah. Well, that's very encouraging to hear because it can be easy to kind of have a moment where a parent can freak out that their child isn't just instantly connecting with something.
Right.
So, what advice would you share with families who feel like their child may have hit a wall with math? And, like, how long should a parent try to work with a student on that place value or multiplication or whatever the issue might be? What would be a good suggested amount of time to continue to work on that skill, but then to know that it's okay to keep working and move forward? How would a parent balance that?
Again, it's a very individual decision,
Mhm.
but math is not a completely linear process.
Yeah.
Nothing in life is. We often learn in what I call spits and spurts. Some
Mm,
things just come so easily, and we're able to just zip through it. And it's true for us our entire life. So we really can't expect that to be different for kids. Um, I I like to encourage parents to just kind of keep a finger on the pulse of what their child is experiencing in life as a whole. Because we tend to look kind of, when we look at math, like what we're talking about today, we tend to look at math as an isolated element in life where nothing in life exists in a vacuum,
mm,
right? So there is so much to be said about a holistic approach to math, not just the math, but the child who is experiencing the math, who is trying to learn the math. And let's not forget ourselves. Where are we in life? What else are we struggling with? Look at the whole picture of us. Why is this such a big deal to us? And I think when we can step back and we can actually take a look at the whole picture, as much as we possibly can, and we ask God for wisdom on the things that we don't see, it becomes a lot less of an issue, of a point of friction for us if our kids don't get multiplication right away or um, place value right away.
yeah.
And when we can do that, it helps everybody involved. It takes the pressure off. It takes the pressure off of our kids to perform, and it takes the pressure off of us to make them learn, kind of the attitude that we get. So, it really isn't, like I said it before, it's not a linear process. There's a lot of back and forth and up and down and 2 steps forward, 1 step back, kind of thing. That's the way life is.
Yeah,
So,
that's very encouraging just to hear that as a mom who we were trucking right along, and then now we've personally got to a certain point in a level where we're a little ahead, and you've got that. For us, we felt this little, you know, pat in our back. Oh,
yeah.
we're so ahead! Woo, great. Well, now we've kind of hit a little wall and need to stop
Mhm.
and spend some time and work on some of those concepts. And it's just very encouraging to know that that's okay, that's normal, and it's all going to turn out okay. In fact, one of our children was actually a NICU baby when they were born. And I remember the greatest encouragement that I got was from the doctor who came along and said, "Oh, don't worry, they all start kindergarten at the same time."
Yep,
And that might be a generalization, which may not be true for everyone, but his heart and his intention was
right.
so good. And so when it was time for that child to begin that age level, I remembered what the doctor said. And it gave me such great encouragement to know that, that child might have started off a little rougher than some of our other kids.
Yeah,
And look at him now. And I think that's a great
that's right.
encouragement for development in whether it be language, math, reading, whatever the subject. It's
Life
very
in
helpful to
general,
know.
just life in general.
That's
Mhm,
right. I
yeah,
really appreciated that. It meant a lot in the moment when I was having a lot
mhm,
of doubts. Uh,
right.
and so it doesn't matter if it was that point in life or those doubts, they'd still creep up in the homeschooling world too. So I'm just thankful for the reassurance that can be given by authors, other moms, other people in our community, because that really keeps me going a lot.
Yeah.
So one of the questions that's come in today is, When do the stories stop coordinating with the math topic they will learn? Or do they?
Through the whole series, there's always some element brought in, but I would say 6 definitely steps away from being strictly math oriented. And in fact, when I went to write Math 6, I really struggled, to be honest, because I didn't want to just make up a silly story to contrive math facts or elements of math at that level, when the kids had already learned most of the concepts that they were going to be really digging into in Math 6.
Yeah.
So I'm using Math 6 as an example, but I'd say 5 um, pr- is pretty close to the other ones. I don't know. Maybe 5 is where it transitions more towards the end, but the stories there, they're there for a reason. And I know it's very odd to have stories in a math curriculum. And I tend to be a little odd sometimes. I think differently than other people, and that's okay. But the stories are very much math oriented in the earlier books, especially as those concepts are being first introduced at a very simple level. And yeah, by math 6, I would say probably a quarter of them are math oriented, maybe a third. I'd have to go and look at it and see, but it's definitely more of the character building, the connection with the kids, the life the life lessons.
Yeah, and those are so important at those ages, and, I
Mhm,
mean, personally speaking, I can't stand it when I've committed myself to a good book or a good series and it doesn't end well. So,
right.
I appreciate that you've taken the time in that final level to end it well and to focus on some developmental things that students around that age may be also dealing with. So, it grows with them, the stories grow with them, and the things that they face are not always just happy-go-lucky.
Mm-mm.
You bring in a lot of real life elements in the stories. So they are very relatable. And it's really neat to see the students, like my own kids, grow with the kids in the story. So I do love
Yes.
that.
Yes. Well, I ended up going ahead and putting a story, really sticking to that story in Math 6 because I actually had asked several students who had used math lessons all the way from the beginning and said, "What do you think? Do we need to continue the story?" And they're like, "Absolutely, continue the story because we need to know how the story ends for the people in the story." And it was almost like they had made friends with them,
Mhm.
and had felt like they were growing up with them. And that was really not even part of my intention when I first started it, but I asked God to really guide me in that. And I really did feel very much his guidance through the creation of that story and the continuation of that story through Math 6. It was actually a pretty powerful experience for me personally because I was like, wow, I had no idea that the story was going to end like this.
I imagine so. Well, it's really beautiful. And I'm so thankful that it is complete with the story and that it's included in level 6. It's really awesome. Let me see. Another question that's come in today from the chat is I have 3 different level children. They are all 1 to 2 levels lower than their grade. How big of a deal is that?
It's no big deal at all. I I say you meet them where they are and encourage them to keep learning, keep growing. And the numbers on those books, yes, they can be used as grade levels, but they are not specifically grade levels. If you look at the back, there are uh, quite a wide range of ages that they're appropriate for. And I just really encourage parents to uh, explain to their kids that there is a very vast difference between developmental levels and grade levels. Developmental levels are God made. God created the human mind, the human brain, the physical brain to develop at a specific rate for each person. And humans came along and said, let's make a system that we can measure success by. And so I have a real problem with that because when you look at the grade levels of different curriculums, they're all over the place. Why is that? Because they're human made. They do not take into consideration the whole child, the whole person. And that is why I was so adamant about doing um, a, a curriculum that would, yes, cover all of the concepts needed to move on to that junior high math, but do it in a way that respected the individual child, the individual learner, the individual development of those little people actually on that learning journey. And, Caitlin, I have a kind of a funny little thing that I think my husband actually said this, and I was like, I think you're right. He said, most adults forget how it feels to be a kid.
Mhm.
And he's like, Ange, you've been given a gift that you haven't forgotten what it feels like to be a kid. And I was like, I think you're right. I think that's been a gift that God has given me because I can very, very distinctly remember feeling specific emotions, big, huge emotions that I couldn't put into words. And I never, ever want any child who is using anything I've ever written or anything I've ever created for them to ever feel like I'm trying to make them into something because that's what everybody thinks that's what they should be. I
Right.
want every child who picks up my math books to open it and say, "This lady gets me. I like her because she gets me." And that's what I tell people when their kids are at a different level at than they're supposed to be. I say, "Good. Hooray for them. I'm so happy for them that they are learning and that they are moving forward because that's really what it's all about, isn't it? Do we ever stop learning? I
Never.
hope not. I hope I never stop learning. I mean, I say I'm gonna learn till I die, but even then, I'll be standing before God and I'll be just still learning?
Absolutely.
So, that's what I want. I want learning to be at the level that the kids are developing and that it respects them and, helps them to be a better person, not just to know math better
Yeah,
and to know
absolutely.
God better, to know
That's
Jesus.
That's right. And so in math lessons, where do you see that a biblical worldview is introduced to students? And what do you hope that they will take away from that biblical worldview as a result of using the series?
Math lessons is designed from a place, like I was just explaining, of respecting and honoring the person that God made. That is a biblical worldview. And it's not painted on the page. It's part of the method. It is the way it's put together. And it is the stories are there because Jesus used stories to teach, because he, being God, knew something about the human brain. And that is that human brains react to story. We connect to story in a way that just plain old facts don't do. Factoids just don't connect to us, and we don't connect to them. So I use stories because Jesus did. I respect children because Jesus did, and because the Bible says to respect them. Don't lead them astray. Don't make them angry, and don't frustrate them, you know? So I am I am very um I can't even really put it into words, which is really important that I do because we're doing this because of words. But I would say that the biblical worldview um, is woven through every single element of math lessons for a living education. It's a living education because it's about a living God. It's to lead children. It's to make Jesus visible to the children. And that is really I want those kids to learn math, but I don't want them just to learn math. I want them to know Jesus. I want them to see him in the big picture of life and to know that he is interested in them on an individual level also. So,
That just warms my heart, almost brings me to tears because as a mom who's using the curriculum, and you might know the struggle of trying to find a curriculum that works for you. How do I know this one's going to work? Or the methodology of this one? And do we really want to waste 6 months to a year trying this one or that one? Just hearing your heart for the children that are going to be using it, that you want them to know the living God. It is so guiding and so affirming for me as a parent, and hopefully to those tuning in today, to know that that is what their child will get to experience. It's so much more than math. Math's important, but that they know the Lord and are known by the Lord is very, very important. So thank you for sharing that. That might be one of the most important things shared of everything today.
yeah.
So,
And it's not just for the kids
mhm,
because I was a homeschool mom too. And I, just like every other homeschool mom I've ever met, ever, never felt like I was doing enough.
mhm,
Was constantly afraid that I was going to make a mistake. And I want moms to be able to relax a little and to trust God with the process, that he's the one that opens minds and he's the one that leads and guides moms and dads in what they should and shouldn't be teaching their kids. So I wanted something that would help both parents and kids to just chill,
yeah.
peace, be still, you know?
Absolutely. I definitely experienced that personally when we switched, and math was the very last subject that from masterbooks that we switched to. And I think I was trying to hold on to something. I don't know what that was. And I finally had to surrender and say, okay, we're doing this. And it has just been the best thing ever. So I don't know why I waited so long, but that is the feeling that I got when we switched was peace and joy. And there was color too. We went from something black and white to the beautiful color of math lessons, and everyone was so happy. And I felt so bad that we didn't switch sooner because of me. But, anyways,
It's
another,
all under the bridge. It's
that's
okay.
right. That's right. So, another question is a similar question, which we may not need to spend too much time on because I feel that you did just answer something similar. But will math learners even out over time? My child is in fifth grade and currently at a third grade level in math. She has a few learning struggles and focusing struggles. Word problems are a struggle. I was just wondering, will she potentially even out as she progresses in the grades?
Yes, she will, especially if you continue to walk along with her as she develops and learns. And just like every other area in life, she will develop, she will get what she needs, and she'll learn more than just math by watching her mama or her daddy or whoever's asking the question, trusting God too, and trusting that he does have a good plan and he will bring it to completion, whatever that looks like for that individual child's life. I have a child who struggled immensely in math and never, quote unquote, got up to the level that they were supposed to. And you know what? The child is an adult, is a parent, is a very highly functioning person in the world has everything that they need. And I like to say when people focus on standards, human standards of education, they're they're really actually holding their child back because God can take them so much higher than standards put forth by humans. So the child who is quote unquote behind, God does not see them that way. And yes, she will have everything that she needs. He promises that in math and everything else.
Yep, absolutely. I remember more strikingly with my last child because I think I was trying to take everything in because I knew it was the last time. I
Mhm.
really noticed when that little child was on their tippy toes trying to turn on the light switch. They had to use a stepping stool to reach it. And I remember the day that they didn't need that stepping stool anymore. And they could just reach up with the very top of their fingers and just get that light switch on. And it just was really cool. I don't know why, but it just really helped me to wonder what was I so nervous about or so scared about? Like, I think sometimes as parents, we get really tripped up, like, they're never going to turn the light on. They're
Yeah,
never going to get there. They're never going to do that. But it's amazing to see them strive and kick that stool out of the way and reach up on their tippy toes and finally turn on that light switch. And that can be the same in math, in reading, and in a lot of areas of education.
absolutely. Absolutely. And it's in that stretching and that reaching that they grow muscles. We don't want to constantly be picking them up so they can turn the light switch on.
Mhm.
It's letting them stretch, it's letting them grow, it's letting them struggle a little bit with you being right there with them all the time so they know that they're not struggling alone, you know? And it's that caring, that little bit of pushing, little bit of, push a little bit more, reach a little bit more. And pretty soon they know how to dig deep and then reach really high. And that doesn't come overnight. It doesn't come overnight for any one of us.
That's very true. Thank you. Yes.
Mhm.
This question says, I am looking for ideas to help a child refresh the way that they think about math or their perception of it. They get very overwhelmed and they say that they can't, or it's too hard as soon as they see numbers, despite being able to actually do the math. This is also a child who really fights against using manipulatives. So, how would you help this mama today?
I would address the negative self-talk, um, and I would ask, is this the only place in life that this child is doing this? Um, because our brains listen to us when we say we can't. It says, "Okay, I can't, so I'm not even gonna try." And, I I really encourage, um, s people who oh boy, and I understand too, because I had one that said, "I can't, I can't, I can't, I can't." And the way we broke that was every time the child would say, "I can't," I would say, "Yet, yet." And I taught that child to break that cycle of thoughts, that thought pattern. And because that's what it is, it becomes literally a groove in the brain where the brain goes down that bad brain path, as Randy likes to say, the bad brain, because it's been a reaction over and over and over, and it becomes a stumbling block to the child. And so instead of looking at it in just math, in the view of math, um, I would encourage the parent to sit down with the child and really have a conversation about breaking thought patterns, getting back in control of the thoughts and how they rule the life of the person who's having that constant negative track going in the brain. And it wasn't made overnight and it's not going to be broken overnight. This is a pattern that has to be stopped because um, I would be very surprised if it doesn't hasn't already flowed out and into other areas of life. And just finding the truth in God's word about what we can do. And you could start with Romans, is it Romans 12, 1 and 2, about don't think like this world, but be renewed in the mind. And that kind of thing is literally, um, those are verses that can literally change our ways of thinking. Because what does God say we can do? Are you going to listen to the broken track in the brain? Or are you going to listen to what God says? And it could be just as simple as teaching the child to say yet at the end of I can't. So, because that's amazing what just that yet means. I mean, there are a lot of things I can't do yet, you know? So there's a lot of mental exercises you can do to help a child who's stuck in that. And I would also just really encourage the parent to be aware, take stock of the negativity that's going on in and around that child. And a lot of times children learn that by listening to other people. And unfortunately for me, I know for my child who was stuck on that track, it was because they were exposed to a family member who constantly said, I can't.
Mhm.
And I had to go to that person and just say, you can't do that in front of this child anymore. This has got to stop because she's only 10 and she's setting herself up for a life of I can't. And I won't have that as a parent.
Right.
So just adding that yet.
That's very helpful. We have a child like that as well, and, it's so funny when we look back, we see they've kind of been like this the whole time. Like, when they were a toddler, they would say, "I not can," and even though that's not good grammar, it was so cute. They got very mad about not being able to pull a chair up to the table or whatever the thing was, and that was their phrase at the time was, "I not can." And so now that they have better grammar today and they might, be able to word it a little bit differently, the sentiment is still the same. And it really has for us come down to things that they believe about themselves or things that they think that might not be quite right. And I love your encouragement to open up their mind for the possibility of what they can do and what God will do through them, even though it is not going to happen overnight, but it will take the heart of a coach to come alongside of them and have empathy for them and show them what's possible. So I love the use of the word yet. That's awesome. Another question that has come through is I have a second grader and a fifth grader, and they're in masterbooks math. Do you have any baseline lesson lengths, like amount of time to spend on a lesson, that would be good for working with those age levels? Like, how long should a lesson take for around those ages?
I for a sec was it a second grader or a
Second and a fifth grader.
okay. For a second grade level-ish. There's that grade thing again.
Mhm.
But for that age, I don't do, more than I don't recommend doing more than, like, a half an hour of math. It's very hard work. It depends. It depends on what they're learning. If it's review, they can do a little longer. If it's a new concept, absolutely nothing more than a half an hour. It's counterproductive. It's anything past that you're really it's frustrating to the child, it's exhausting to them, and it's really not an efficient or effective use of time. And it also can lead to bad brain, letting it get to that point. And for the fifth grade, I would say a half hour to 45 minutes. And again, it depends on what they're doing. If it's review and it's easy for them and it's confidence building, I would say, 45 minutes would be fine. But again, it really depends on the child. It depends on their attention span. If their attention span is a half an hour, go for a half an hour and see if you can get it to 40 minutes by the end of the year. But don't push too much past that current attention span because it's not productive.
That's very helpful. That flows into the next question, which is asking about around level 6. They're wondering if 1 page of work, 2 pages of work, if that's not enough, and does that prepare them from going from Math 6 to Principles of Math in those pre-algebra years?
Oh, absolutely. Again, it's not how much you work, it's how you're doing it. And if you're spending a bunch of time just filling it with a busy work or whatever, it's really not productive. It is much, much better to work smarter, not harder. And it's so true for math also. A lot of people have been trained to believe that that more is better. More is not better most of the time, not unless you're talking about chocolate. It's not better to work an hour versus a half an hour to 45 minutes. It's not better to do 60 problems versus 25 or 30. It's the quality that matters. So I would just encourage this parent to understand that the math lessons level 6 book it was designed specifically to lead into the principles of mathematics. So the whole design was laid out with that intention.
It's very helpful, very reassuring to know that that transition will be a smooth one.
Yes.
The next question is asking about for a child that does not have their multiplication facts 100% memorized, would you pause and not move on to level 4 or 5 until they know them without hesitation?
No, I would not hold them back for that, because in Math 6, there is quite a push to really finalize that memorization of multiplication facts, and, I don't know if we're gonna talk about this, Caitlin, or not, but, I think there was a question about multiplication and memorization, so I don't know if this is the time to talk about that or if
Yes.
I should wait. Should I do that?
I think it goes really well with this question,
Okay.
like, so for the people that are struggling to move on, if they have multiplication memorized or
Yeah.
not, or where do they turn to really work on that more? That might be a good thing to try to support everyone with.
Yes, this morning I was praying in preparation for this event, and I was looking through some of the questions, and I was, just asking for wisdom because I know that, I remember being in the trenches, and I remember feeling, like, "Am I doing this right?" Or, "Am I just gonna totally mess up my kids if I do this or that or don't do this or that?" That whole thing. And so I really was praying and I actually wrote down some notes, and, I wanted to just take a minute to encourage, parents who, um, who are teaching elementary kids right now, who are homeschooling elementary kids. We live in a culture that is absolutely run by convenience and comfort. And it's very interesting how over the last decade or two, the ability to memorize has become such a big struggle, and not just for children, for adults, because the more we use technology and the more we have our phones and all, I'm embarrassed to say that I don't even know all of my own kids' phone numbers. Isn't that just ridiculous? Why? Because I've never had to memorize them. I just open my phone and hit the contact and that's that. It calls it. But what we're actually doing is stealing um the opportunities to grow and deepen our character and become a grittier people, because we don't have to work very hard to do anything. And most of us have dishwashers and laundry facility right at our own home. And it's not a big deal to throw clothes in the washer, in the dryer, or whatever. And those things are wonderful. They're a blessing. But yet we need to understand that the real things in life do not come instantly. You're married. I'm married. I've been married for 33 years. And those years, a lot of them have been super, super hard. They're wonderful years. I love my husband. He's my best friend, and I'm so thankful for him. But our relationship has not been smooth sailing. And it still isn't smooth sailing. We're two very, very different people. So the things that we teach our children, they matter. And how this connects to memorization is a pretty big thing, because in years past, kids were taught that they needed to memorize things, and not just multiplication, but all kinds of things. All kinds of things. They would memorize entire books of the Bible. My kids were in quizzing in high school, and they literally did, um, it's called full material. So they would memorize entire books of the Bible. So I could just say randomly to my daughter, quote this scripture, and she'd be like, "Du-du-du-du-du," and I'm like, "What?" It took me a year to memorize Ephesians. I mean, like literally an entire year, and I was working really hard on it. So when we come to math 3, 4, 5, 6, and the kids are really working on the multiplication, um, the 12 through 12s. I highly encourage them to look at the bigger picture. This is such an amazing opportunity that they're giving their child to grow those brain muscles, that determination to stick to it. I certainly wouldn't hold a child back because of it, but man, what a huge blessing to have all of those memorized. So my dad was a Marine, and he was very much a drill sergeant kind of person. And I remember when I was 9 years old, he told me, "This year, you're going to learn your multiplication." And I was like, "I can't do that." And he said, "You can't do it yet, but you're going to." He goes, if you memorize these, they will do something that you don't have right now. It'll grow a muscle. It'll make you so much smarter. It'll make you so much stronger. And of course, that's all, I'm like, okay, let's do it. So he's the one who showed me how to set up the 12 and 12 on a piece of paper. And he says to me, he goes, how much you want to bet that you'll be able to do this in under a minute by the end of the year? I'm like, I can't do that. I could hardly get through threes. But you know what? By the end of the year, I could do it in 45 seconds flat.
That's
And that was such a confidence booster. It was such a wonderful, wonderful confidence booster. And you know what? It didn't just stay in my math area of life. It flowed out into the other areas too. And so I really highly encourage parents to really dig in, encourage your children to do this, to memorize this. They will be so served well by doing this in so many ways. Um, there is a number awareness that comes from memorization work. There is um, there is a determination that is born in this. It's just a wonderful, wonderful tool that does not just stay in the math area of life. And I'm going to end on this little section. I got a letter years ago from a mom, and it was an email, and she told me, she said, "I went into math 6 with my child, with trepidation because I never memorized my multiplication." And she's like, "I can't even tell you how much that held me back in life." And I didn't want that for my children. So I determined that when they memorized, I would memorize. And she's like, "And through this entire year, we have encouraged each other to keep going and to do it." She's like, I have seen such an overflow of determination, of encouragement, and everything else in every area of our lives because we've stuck to it and we've done it and we've stretched our brains in ways that we didn't think was even possible just by memorizing these. She's like, we've seen number patterns pop out at us now. She said, my son who said, I can't at the beginning of this and whined and cried and carried on for 2 months of the process. She's like, he's the fastest one out of all of us and has completely changed his outlook on math and on his life in general. And the I can't attitude is gone because he conquered the multiplication. And I was just like, case study, you know? It
Yeah.
was wonderful. I answered her, I was just like, "I am so happy to hear that," because that's exactly what I know it can happen.
Yeah, that's
So,
really wonderful. Yeah, like in math level 6, students are assigned to do multiplication drills throughout the course a little bit. So they'll take their blank multiplication grid from the back of the book and they can laminate it or put it in a sheet protector or just print out multiple copies and they can time themselves if they want and see how they progress
yeah,
at it. And so I like to encourage my kids that everyone makes mistakes in math, and that's totally normal. That's a great way that we learn. But to use those little drills to help them see, like, get the ones and then do your best with the rest, and you might get a little faster. So those are really fun.
yep, yep, those are
Yes.
fun.
So another question that's come in today is, um, how can a family fully utilize and enjoy Masterbooks math if they are in a strictly metric system environment?
Well, I know we have some metric charts in the back of where does that start? Do you remember? Is it level 4,
It's definitely in 4, 5, and
5, and
6.
6? It
Um,
might be in 3, but I'm not sure. I don't have the books next to me, so
yeah, they're definitely in level 4,
mm,
but maybe someone can jump in the chat and say if they
yeah,
know that they're in 3 as well, but definitely 4 and up.
definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So, another little question that's come in is, will there be a practice makes perfect book for level 6?
It's not in the plans that I know of, but, I've learned to never say never.
Well, that's good. But at this point in time, if anyone is looking for a little bit of extra practice, a tip that I've seen shared in the Masterbooks app is to make copies of your quizzes from your teacher guide from level 6. Go ahead and use those throughout the year. And then maybe when you complete the course, if you need a little bit of extra, take those copies of those quizzes and give them to your student in like a packet. There's about 20, a little bit around 20 quizzes that would be a good time of review for that kind of purpose if they do need something. So until we see what happens, that's a little idea that someone
That's a
shared
good idea.
in the app. So that was kind of helpful. All right. So we are almost out of questions for today, which is really exciting. One of the questions is, what would you say to encourage a parent who struggles themselves to teach math and they are doubting and they are ready to just kind of throw this whole thing out and stop homeschooling and turn them over to someone who might be a professional who can just do it better? You know what I'm asking with that question?
Yeah, I encourage you to remember that you're, um, you're setting a you're setting an example for your children, and just think of it this way. Sometimes God puts us in positions that makes us have to trust him, and we can't do it on our own. I have so many areas in my life that, well, I'm just going to be honest, you guys. I did not have a mom growing up that I had any kind of relationship with. And so in my sorry, my childhood was very rough. My parents had a horrible relationship. And I when I became a mom, I was very, very young. I felt like I had nothing to pull from, and I had no I didn't have any type of example that I wanted to follow. I didn't want to emulate my relationship with my mother, with my children. I didn't want to emulate my parents' relationship with my husband. I didn't want to have any kind of um, repeat, shall we say. So we all have areas of our lives that we so struggle in, and we feel so unequal to the task. I just want, I have to be careful here. I want, I want that mom to know that she isn't, she isn't the teacher in the situation. She is the parent, and God is the teacher and the parent, and she is, in his eyes, the same as the child is. They're, they're both the children of God, and that he loves them both, and he didn't make a mistake by giving her that child to teach. And her past situations and um, things that happened to her to make her feel unequal to the task, God is bigger. He is so much bigger. And he wants to use that situation to help her grow and become closer to him. And don't waste that situation. Don't waste the circumstance of feeling unequal to the task, because those are actually gifts from God that drive us to him. We would never go to him if we didn't need him. And he lets us feel our deficiency so that we will go to him, and that we will allow him to be everything that we aren't and can't be. But that's where grace comes in. It's like Paul says that his strength shows up most in our weakness. He's always, you look through the Bible, he's always looked for the most obscure, the most, you're like, that's ridiculous. That person could never be a quote unquote hero. But that's what God uses. That's who God uses. He uses the ones that are quaking in their boots half the time. That would be me. Hello. I'm such there's no way in anybody's book that I would be someone that could accomplish anything. I'm a stage for God's strength. That's the way I look at life. I have to be, because I don't have it on my own. And what a gift to know that we don't have it on our own,
That's
right?
It's absolutely right. That's so
So
encouraging for moms who um, feel their deficiency and they don't feel like they are enough. Remember, you're not, but through Christ, He equips you for this calling, and You are the only mama for your children. You are irreplaceable in your home, at your table, working through that math problem. And you don't have to have all of the answers, but you can find resources and connections to help you as you navigate through these years to help your child. And what a blessing for them to see that mom doesn't have it all figured out. She
Mhm.
needs Jesus too. And we've really learned and grown a lot through some of those struggles. They're mostly math for us. I don't know why, but we do
Or
learn and grow,
help.
or other things. Yes, for sure. But thank you for that encouragement today. Um, I think we've gotten through quite a few of the questions so far. One question is kind of the last one I think we will be able to cover for today, and it's asking about how concepts are brought in kind of at a lower level, and then they're sort of repeated a little deeper in the next level, and then the next level. They're kind of wondering um, if it feels like something's not sticking when it's first introduced, how do they know if things need to be paused, camped out on, or can they try to trust the process and keep it going, knowing that that mastery and spiral pattern will eventually help it stick with their child?
Yes. I like to say math is like building a wall. You put all the first layer down, the bricks, the blocks down first, and then you go back and put another one on, and you put another one on. Um, but each parent needs to be aware, if there is an area, and we all know our kids well enough to know, okay, that area definitely is going to need a little bit more. Um, bringing in the practice makes perfect in 1 through 5. It's a good way to just give the child a little bit more in that area. Um, but as far as like holding them back or not knowing when to move forward, um, it really is very much trusting the process and knowing that it's going to be visited again. That child's going to see a similar problem and a similar concept, and you're going to be able to kind of take the temperature of where they are with that. And understand, okay, so they're really, really struggling with this, and maybe they're just having an off day. So just kind of make a mental note. Just keep an eye on them the next time they're doing that kind of problem. And if sure enough they are struggling with it, then it's time to readdress it and reiterate the concept and give them a little bit more practice. I also encourage people to change how they're doing it. Like for instance, if you have a child who is and this may or may not be from experience, if you have a child who, let's say, is struggling with subtraction, long subtraction, the whole borrowing and carrying, or
Yes, I know
all
what
that
you
whole
mean.
thing. Oh my goodness, right? I used to have them do a few problems on a paper, and if I could see that the process was just so slow, it was like I could just see their discouragement growing. I would have them stand up and actually write the problem on a window.
Mhm.
Oh, thank you. My husband just brought me some water. He heard me gagging away in here. Mm, thank you, hon. Um, oh, it's lemon water. That's wonderful. So I'd have him write the problem on the window with window markers and just standing up and using like large motor skills and large numbers would help him to process through that concept in a different way. And sometimes just approaching it differently can really, really change the way the brain takes in the information. And it just moves from one part of the brain to the other. I am really sorry.
That's totally okay. I think it's really important for our kids to maybe sometimes get out of that drudgery And for us as moms, I know it's hard to be creative because we're trying to do so many things and we
Yes.
can't just pull all these tricks out of our hats. But every once in a while, I do encourage moms to be creative. Try to make some fun plans for your child. You know your child best, you know what motivates them. Do something that they're not going to expect mom to do. Now, in our family, my husband is the fun person, and anything that I try to do that I think is really fun and I'm really going out on a limb to be fun, it's they're like, "Cool, thanks, mom." Like they think they're glad, but and they didn't expect it and they're thankful, but it's not quite what dad does.
Mhm.
And
It's
so
just not
for
your
me,
brand.
no, it's just I'm the no person, I'm the limitation.
No.
So, when mom tries to do something that is really fun and unexpected, it's fun to make those plans to say, we're not going to do any school today. We're going to go to this fun place. Or after every time you get a math problem done, whether you got it right or wrong, you get this chocolate chip or whatever. Or take a little race car and drive it from here to here as you do your multiplication, as you do your skip counts. Just try to think of something unexpected and different to like wow and surprise them. Shake up that brain or
Mhm.
have them finish up a math problem, get out of their seat and dance a silly dance, or bring in some of the fun that we get to do because we homeschool. We are not stuck in our seats all day and we don't have to be. So we get to have fun and move around. Not every day can be a vacation in homeschooling. Not every day can be a wow day, but whenever we can spark some joy for our kids and try to make it fun and be the mom who brings some excitement, unexpected things to their day that I think they're going to really appreciate and hold in their hearts as they grow and have some really wonderful memories. And it really sounds like you tried to do that with your own children and that you've written this series in a way to connect with kids who love to have fun and who love to learn.
Yeah. Yeah. And, just, also something just came to mind. Board games are a great way to build a lot of board games really build critical thinking.
Yeah.
And board games aren't as big of a thing as they used to be. But my kids and I used to play Farkle. And, it's the dice game that is
Mhm.
really, there's no skill to it. It's just really a lot of shaking dice, which can get kind of loud. But it's also like the mental math
Yeah.
and the critical thinking. Do I want to take this 300 points that I've got, or do I want to shake those three dice that I have? What are, kind of thing. And it's, those are really good things to do once in a while. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with doing that and doing an abbreviated academic day. Those are the things, like you said, that make memories. So I have quite a few memories of just absolutely wild, crazy days, homeschooling, my house being an absolute disaster. Yeah, I could tell you some stories.
I think I'm living those stories right now, but
I'm
you've
sure you are.
given me a lot of hope for continuing to be faithful in what I'm doing. And I feel like you've really encouraged our community today that he who began a good work in us will be faithful to complete it. He will equip us for every good work. And as we steward our children, as we sit at the table with them and work with them through math lessons for a living education, that we just open our eyes and realize what a blessing we have before us, even though it might be a bit of a challenge. But to see, I'm a wonderfully blessed mom to get to be right here where I am. And I'm so thankful that you've written such a beautiful math course and series that's been able to be like a friend to all of us who are homeschooling our elementary age students. So thank you so much.
You're welcome, and the glory goes to God. That's all I can say.
Absolutely. Well, we just want to thank you, Angela, for joining us today, for answering our questions, many of which you had to come up with the answer right on the spot. And I know that's not always easy. Thank you so much for your time and your investment into our children's lives and the homeschooling community. And thank all of you. I just want to thank all of you joining us today for being here and participating. And I look to see you in the Masterbooks app and the Moms of Master Books Facebook group where we can keep on connecting.